Alrighty. Hi everyone. For the second time around, I am T.Freeh, and this will be my presentation on the final project. I hope my sound is good. I really can't hear or check it. It's on my iPhone, and I should be sounded enough, so we'll go from here. Now, I interviewed a longtime old friend, friend of mine, Christina Letness. She is currently doing dining floor management at an Olive Garden in Minneapolis. She does that and works at a Rainforest Cafe doing a server and a bartender. So all her jobs have been in the industry more or less. She's been hospitality forward. So sorry for the yawns. I really kind of wanted to focus her because all my jobs have been as a cook. Line cook mainly, fast order, quick service restaurant. So I thought it was kind of nice to get a different perspective, what I don't really see. I mean, working a register and doing that stuff, and there's a host at young age is a little different. So I mean, I've done such as run all the orders and tickets and crunch numbers at the end of the day, but it's different than working one-on-one with people, and I don't have hospitality, so I thought she was nice. She started at about the age of, I think she said around 14, 15. She was working at a Dairy Queen for her uncle on the north side of Minneapolis. Obviously that was before she could legally work, so it was off the clock cash job for the uncle, but she said it was kind of nice to start young and it was mainly with her family, but she really got a good foot in the door on how to deal with people, and she was getting just flat minimum wage. I think she said it was around $6 an hour at that time. God, would it be 11 years or 10 years ago, something like that for her? So it really gave her an idea on how people have to work for money, that thought of tips and how that extra effort really makes a difference. And I never really thought or don't think too much of tips because my jobs have never been tip related. It's been, quality of how much you can get done in the amount of time effectively, but hers was different. So it's kind of interesting. When she was, I believe she said sometime between 16 and 17, she got her first job as a waitress at a 50s diner kind of style on a north suburb of Minneapolis. She said it was interesting because being young and having no idea, it was like, well, I'd already been working, but now I got to do this on my own. She didn't have other people help her. She had to be that person who learned how to talk to others, how to take orders, how to learn kitchen lingo, then how to talk to the cooks, bring it back in and out and in and out. And the level of speed and frustration that was there, yet alone being a young girl and all in the industry. And, and she said a lot of times, it was, and I'm sure as we all know, a bunch of mainly Latinos in the kitchen. And, sure, she got kind of ridiculed or eyed or that kind of stuff. So how do you deflect that kind of like sexual pressure from others coming onto you and then into a workplace in which you're there to make money simply on that end? So I think she said it was about 2 years in which she worked at that. Maybe 2.5, it was just something for more money and along with doing the other jobs. But it gave her a lot of input on how managers treat you, how people treated you, because prior it was, my family. So, the family is obviously a different beast per se that you would look at than having managers that aren't related to you like that. And then how she really learned how mean people can be, how tough it can be. If you do something wrong, your uncle's going to sugarcoat you, and when you did something wrong there, the general manager really did scold you. Or, you could get sent home, you could get your hours cut, you might not get respect for a couple of days, say you really piss off the cooks, the chefs, that kind of level on how you didn't get the food, how you didn't get the priorities, that kind of stuff. And, I really was breaking her down at points, but you toughed it through and still somehow managed to be that smiling face that served you your hot soup and your sandwich. So to go from there, after that, she ended up landing another job. She was doing that. It was sometime after high school graduation, 18, 19-ish. She did that and was running between the grill and an Olive Garden. Was one of her first. She said, it was kind of an interesting change because you step up the pay scale a bit. The diner was giving you whatever base server pay was of $4 an hour plus tips. Well, but then Darden, the Olive Garden company, would give you, I think she said she was getting whatever minimum wage was, $7.50 or something at a time. So it's kind of nice to see how different places offered. Plus then, at that point, even though she was technically full-time, and, even she would only get 30-some hours, that she was eligible for benefits. Or, what was the thought then on how much better of a place can be and all the rest, But then it was a comparison in between the way that different managers treated. She saw that there were a whole lot more women at the Olive Garden, a whole lot more people of different ages. It just wasn't young girls in the front, and then a gradient of age scale. And I think the phrase that she used was hospitaliano, hospitality and family, whatever together, but how managers and the work in between two employees was a lot more family orientated. Not only do you have to take care of the customers, you got to take care of the people you work with. How much you actually, as our tech said, the majority of, or actually not the majority, but a lot of the time that people spend is in a workplace. I directly asked that, do you see that now since you're in a management position? Obviously this is years later, it's 24 now, so 4 years of Olive Garden and make a nice management one. She runs the floor every time she's there. So, but the question was, how do you compare thinking that a lot of people have one or two jobs, in the service industry, and majority of their time is spent, with this hospitaliano family versus their own family or their own real friends. Do you ever think about that? Like, do you have to build on that? The employee grapevine, etc. And it was really put onto of, it can make or break you, and how currently, sometimes you get different crews, different shifts in which people aren't as coherent or as friendly, but if everyone's got each other's back, that it can really pick up someone who's having a bad day. But then on the contrary, if everyone's having a bad day, that it can bring down the restaurant as a whole. How then does she, as the person in power, bring everyone up? And obviously, sometimes I have to step up a whole lot more. She's, a lot of times she's just kind of a glorified hostess, but if she's running everyone smoothly, then that works. Obviously, she picks up, more psych and has the experience, the knowledge, and the training. So where do you go from there? I asked some questions on training. What is it the most? I guess she doesn't do too much of the direct initial training, but a lot of times, it's retraining someone to get a new dish every month or something. We see the commercials, so it's how do you teach people how flavor profiles, how you come in, how you should sell it, and the different points on, what dishes have been selling the most in the last month, because obviously stuff kind of changes seasonally. We all know, wintertime you want butternut squash soup or something hearty. In the summer you want your caprese salad. So, looking at sales and numbers and realizing that there's things that you can push more to sell and that are going to be better, more profitable, at different times of the year is kind of one thing. It was that some people do learn at different paces. She says, no matter what, she could have someone who comes in who's only 18 and they have it down that night, everything's set up, selling, blah, 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 but then someone might. So how do you constructively go through with, she played beating into someone's head, but it's just what you got to do at a point and still go. One interesting, I guess, story that she said, that really taught her about management was before she ended up having this position, it was something of an issue over tables, and people have their sections, and how some girl said that she could take like the table from a section, but she lied to her, and then so obviously Christina went to the host and said, so and so, why did she get this? And she didn't understand, and the girl lied to her again and said that they requested her, even though she blatantly took a table from her. So she was like, what do I do? Do I confront her? Do I yell? And she's like, no, I wasn't upset. Just ask the general manager. Because I guess supposedly the general manager said this, but that was all a lie. So then she really had to step back because she was taken apart. The general manager took her right to the other girl and asked her why the other girl would lie about what the general manager said. And said, it was really interesting to see how one has to handle a situation. Because it wasn't only that, obviously she was mad and all, but then situations should be resolved. But then at the same time, how do you punish someone? And then where do you go from there? And it was just a complete thought into how she thinks some further points in which you should handle it, and it's obviously appraisal and disappraisal. Punishment at times have to happen. So how do you keep that steady point? She said most of it works pretty smoothly, so you're really not punishing people too much, especially if you can keep it positive. I asked how do you dish it out both ways, how do you get someone going on a hard night when they are slacking? And she kind of said it's a double-edged sword. I think we've had a double sandwich idea. I'm not quite sure the terms well enough. But, compliment and break them down at the same point. You got to got to still keep the morale up. So, alright guys, well that's 10 minutes, so I hope that's enough. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I do try, and hope everyone's projects turn out well.